Hi, everybody. Welcome to Frankfurt, Germany. We are here in the, I don't know what this room is called. Is this the recreation room? What is this room called? Game room? You can talk at a normal volume. We're in the game room here at Foundry 42DE in Frankfurt, Germany. Our guest today on the show will be Director of Star Citizen Live, Mr. Todd Papy. Before we get to that, I did want to take a couple minutes and talk to you about a topic very close to my heart, Citizencon. Sorry. I also have con crud. We spent last week at Gamescom. You may have seen the town hall broadcast we did from the Brauhaus Unnamen. I came back all week. I've been fighting a cold, so I'm heavily medicated. So I apologize if my voice gets raspy. Citizencon. Some of you may know that yesterday we pushed our Wave 3 Citizencon announcement. We put a couple of the VIP tickets that had been returned to us through transaction errors and whatnot back up on sale. We also opened up the regular standard tickets. We also published our schedule of events for the presentations that are in the primary theater, as well as the secondary presentations going on in our secondary theater. Fancy in-fiction names for those still pending. One of the new additions of this year's Citizencon is the digital ticket. Now, we've seen a lot of conversation going on in Spectrum, on Twitter, on social medias and Reddits and everything. Rest assured, we hear you. Much of this conversation was anticipated, of course. Anytime you make a big change to the way things are done, you can expect a very fervent reaction from the Star Citizen community, which is one of the things that makes this community so amazing, is just how much you guys care about not just what we do, but the way in which we do things. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that today because we're here in Frankfurt. We've got Todd. They give me one show a year to come out to Germany and sit here live in person with Todd. So I don't want to spend too much time on that topic on this show and lose my one opportunity with Todd. But I do want to invite folks to check out the Spectrum thread that was posted by our very own Chris Roberts. That's up there now in the general section on Spectrum. He lays out a bunch of our reasoning for what we're doing this year, probably better and more eloquently than I ever could. So I'm gonna invite you all to check that out if you haven't already. Suffice to say, I do want to reiterate a couple key points that maybe sometimes get lost. There's a lot of information pushed out. There's a lot of misinformation going on out there, so I do want to reiterate a couple of key points. One, Citizencon, the full thing, the keynote, the closing remarks, all the panels is fully available, free of charge for everybody throughout the week. Basically, it means while the event happens on a Wednesday, every panel will be made available on YouTube Thursday, Friday, Saturday through a staggered release thing. Absolutely none of the content is going to be locked permanently behind a paywall, whereas so you don't have to pay anything to see it. If you want to watch the events happen live, like in the very moment they happen, that is still available to every single concierge and subscriber. So if you're a subscriber to Star Citizen at either the Centurion or the Imperator levels, or you've made it into concierge status, you have full access to the entire broadcast from beginning to end, no charge whatsoever. Additionally, the keynote, which is what Citizencon has been every year prior to last year, which has always been free, is still free live to all backers. So the keynote where Chris Roberts comes on stage, he does the big demo, red one, whatever. That stuff still completely available to all backers, free of charge. It is merely the segmented panel section where the stuff that we experimented with last year, where we got to bring a bunch of developers in from all our studios across the world, fly them in, put them in hotels. That's the stuff that we're subsidizing with a virtual ticket. But the keynote address that you've all been used to for years and years and years, that is still available to everybody, free of charge. The big difference is it's at the beginning of the show. We're not going to make you wait to the end. We're actually going to start things off with that, and you can see that on the schedule right there. And then, of course, Chris Roberts comes back at the end for a series of closing remarks that are currently referred to as the road to release. I can't tell you anything more than that. You're going to have to tune into Citizencon to find out what that means. But and that's not because I'm being coy. It's because they haven't told me. So tune in to Citizencon live on October 10th, 2018. The closing remarks and the opening keynote available to all Star Citizen backers free of charge. The panels from the main stage theater and the secondary stage available to all subscribers and all concierge members free of charge, and available for anyone else at a virtual ticket cost of about $20, give or take some of that, wherever you're at. I'm not the money guy, so that's what I got to say about that. Check out the thread. Chris goes into way more detail than I ever could. With that, they only give me 1 hour a year to be here in person, so I don't want to waste any more of it. Todd! Todd, where are you? Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Welcome to Frankfurt.
Again.
Well, no, technically I haven't seen that video. So they haven't seen that video.
Okay.
Yesterday we were shooting Calling All Devs. So, one of the things that's hard to keep straight in my head is the order in which we shoot things and the order in which things go. So I just used the Calling All Devs joke as if it had already been presented to you guys, and it hasn't. So I messed that up. How you doing?
Good.
Are you just going to sit there this whole time? Do the wide camera. Can we get him in the wide camera? Can you see him? No, you can't see him. There's Christian. He's operating the show. Hi, Christian. You can't see it. Come on, step in. Come on. There he is. Hi, Brian. He's just sitting there watching. All right. So, Todd, you are the director of Star Citizen Live. If anybody has watched any of our programming for some time, they probably already know who you are. But because we do this every time, some show is always somebody's first show.
Okay.
Start us off. Tell us who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
I'm the PU Live Game Director. Mm-hmm. So that means the releases that we work on, the content that goes in, I'm kind of the first sign off, and making sure that it's good enough to go out in this release. So that's and then be able to answer any questions that people might have while Chris or Tony are asleep. Because most of our development does happen over here in the UK and DE time zone. Mm-hmm. So basically, I'm there to answer questions, be able to be in meetings, make calls that I think Chris would be making, mm-hmm. And then be able to filter down any information that I've heard from CR before and make sure that I'm speaking the same terminology and same words that he is, so it just reinforces we're heading in this direction.
You brought up an interesting point that we do worldwide distributed development, where just about every minute of every hour, somewhere around the world, somebody's working on Star Citizen.
Yes.
And because while Chris is our game director and arbiter of many things, he does still need to sleep. I'm prepared to prepared to confirm that he's a vampire.
Even though we do get emails from him at 2 a.m. sometimes.
I've never had that happen. I've never had that happen.
But
there needs to be a voice on the other side of the planet that can speak with that authority.
So Aaron, myself, we fill in. We fill in for Tony, CR, mm-hmm. and then obviously we've got Nick on S42. So there's always somebody there that's kind of looking at the game, making sure that it's to the quality level that we need it to be in order to go out. Even though it is a very iterative process, a lot of times it's not, it's not final. So therefore, mm-hmm. us looking at it and saying, okay, I know it needs a lot more work, but for this quarter, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to go out.
All right, so as we tend to do on RTV, we do take questions from a number of sources. This is your chance to ask questions directly to our developers, or in this case, the director of our developers. You can submit questions either live in Twitch chat, where we're broadcasting right now. You can please preface your question with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. You can also do the very same thing in Spectrum, which is our bespoke communication platform available on robertspaceindustries.com. And I can do the spiel in my sleep. Same thing, we'll pick the questions. Additionally, we did throw a question. I got cocky and I said I could do this in my sleep, and then I started stuttering. I've also got a cold. Additionally, this week we put up a thread in Spectrum where we started collecting questions ahead of time for the folks who couldn't be here live. So that also allows people to vote up which ones they want us to see answered most. So I'm going to start with those questions while we wait for the live questions to come in. I'm going to preface this again, if this wasn't clear. This is Todd Papy. He is the director of Star Citizen Live, former design director for Star Citizen.
I still,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So this is your chance to ask questions about the game and the persistent universe. We understand that many folks still have Citizencon questions or whatever. Direct you to the Chris Roberts thread in Spectrum. So, all right off the bat, the number one question, the question that was submitted and then voted up by the most number of Star Citizen backers over the week. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you want the hangars to work later in the game? For instance, will the hangars that we pledged for generate cost, i.e. in a game package? Can the hangars be expanded? Are the hangars persistent somewhere or somehow?
So this is something that we're going to have a meeting about next week, in particular about HABs, and I think it also applies to hangars as well. So the discussion is going to be, are HABs instanced or are hangars instanced, just because, you know, if somebody's trying to take off, if 500 people are trying to take off, you know, do we wait in line, that kind of aspect. So more than likely, they will not be instanced. I'm sure CR will want to have something, okay, if 5,000 people want to live on Hurston, and in particular Lorville, then there's, you know, maybe 5,000 apartments. You might have a closer apartment than I. CR might have the closest apartment, kind of thing.
I've got apartment 1138 way out on the outskirts.
Exactly. So that's, you know, just kind of like the real world. And then we've talked about, obviously, the more players that want to go there, then it has economic factors associated with it. So therefore, if you want to rent there or something like that, it becomes more expensive, you know, as it goes up. And then at that point, you can get priced out, or people will move around the universe. Right. So with the hangars, I mean, I would consider that hangars and HABs are basically kind of interconnected. So if you have a HAB, more than likely you're going to have a hangar associated with it, possibly even a garage. So as far as player hangars go, then it might be that those are at very specific locations. And that's something that we still need to kind of work out. You know, do we have them all, or do we have the ability to have, you know, 500 at Lorville, and then 500 at Microtech, and then 500, you know, and it's these kind of conversations that we need to have, and we need to, you know, think about, just because I know people want to be able to go in and personalize their stuff. You know, not only their HABs, not only their hangars, but also their ships, and
it's one of the interesting, I wouldn't say challenges, but opportunities the Star Citizen provides us. In most any other MMO, the idea of not instancing something like, you know, this many hangars would be absurd, because you just don't have the real estate. For Star Citizen, with the size and scale of our moons, and then the upcoming size and scale of our planets after that, we actually have the real estate to explore this as an option.
Yeah.
Again, as Todd said,
we don't know if it's a good option yet.
Yeah. But we can afford to explore it.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it, we can look at it, we can, you know, do test mock-ups of, you know, okay, we have a spaceport. Okay, how big is that spaceport? How big, you know, how many hangars can we actually get in there that look reasonable? Or is it that basically you're renting a space, you know, as a storage, and then at that point they bring your ship up, and then you can take off. And there's only a limited number of player hangars there, and there's a limited number of player hangars on New Babbage and Horizon and Pyro, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So those are, or Terra, like those are the things that we need to think about, and you know, have a discussion between Tony, Chris, myself, and Paul Randell, just to figure out, okay, how are we going to take this? How are we going to push this forward?
Yeah, it's. I remember when we introduced the idea of land claim licenses back at Citizencon last year. There was a lot of discussion about how many of these can you actually put out there.
Right.
And when Tony did the math, it was like if every single Star Citizen had a 4 kilometer, a plot of land, there was still enough room on one of our larger planets, not one of the smaller ones, one of the larger planets, to put everybody on one
Yeah.
planet, and a hangar isn't going to be 4 kilometers.
No.
So yeah, so it's hard to wrap your head around that scale.
Yeah,
I live this life every day.
And thinking about
still hard.
our small hangars versus our medium versus our extra large hangars, like, there's quite a size difference in there, and we're working towards creating them in a modular way. So then at that point in time, we can actually switch skins, or we can switch colors, or switch building styles, and then we have new hangars.
We got a question from the live chat. It says, will there be more mission variations in 3.3? There will be more missions. Because
there will be more missions, but as far as variations go,
like the types of missions, fetch missions, kill missions.
I mean, right now there's so many different wrappers that we can put on it. A lot of our focus, because our live team is not as expansive as some of the rest of our teams, is actually putting content on Hurston and building up that content, building up how we do things in a modular way. So right now we put out a lot of missions, and for example, like a fetch mission. Okay, well, how do we? In the beginning, it was hand built, so it was strong armed. Let's force it through. Let's basically script it in a certain way, and then now that we've tested it, we're like, okay, we feel that's a good mission type. Let's go through and make it in modular pieces.
Right.
So that's what the guys have been doing, is basically rebuilding these things in modular pieces. So then when we're talking about fetch mission, well, we can add time associated with it. We can add AI associated with it, so that you're dealing with things running away from you. Like it's all these different types of scenarios that we want to build, and have these modifiers associated with them. So we're just rebuilding those logics on a fair amount of those right now.
Why didn't you just build it that way the first time?
Because we don't know it's good, and so I mean, we got to test it out and see what works, what doesn't work, and then at that point we figure out a way to make it modular.
Game development.
Yeah.
All right. Back from the thread. Will there be a possibility in 3.3 or 3.4 of sharing our missions and contracts with our team members?
Not for 3.3. For 3.4, I think that will depend on how.
3.3.
Well, it will depend on 3.3, yes, it
Yeah.
will. So with OCS, but then it will also depend on, in particular, our mission teams and our US2 teams. Basically lists that they need to move on to. So right now I don't think it's at the top of those lists. However, it is something that we are concerned about, and we want to be able to do.
Gotcha. All right. Let's see. What else do we got? What faction are the new mission givers scheduled for 3.3? People are familiar with Miles and Rudo as less than a lawful. Less than lawful. Are there going to be any lawful mission givers for the people who don't necessarily want to go to seedy folks like?
Well, I mean, the way that we kind of think about it is that yes, we do have lawful mission givers. I'm trying to remember what Reco is. As far as Clovis Darnley, he's kind of a mix, almost like Miles is. But I believe Reco is a positive mission giver because she's dealing with salvage and cargo. So and then from our standpoint, this is something that Luke and I were discussing yesterday, where how we distribute missions, how we give them out. So a lot of times job boards and a lot of the lawful things will come from bigger corporations, will come from like a job board setting or something like that. Versus from a criminal setting, you don't want to say, oh, hey, I want you to go out and kill this person. So it'll be more like a direct message or something like that. So those are the way that we're thinking about things. And yes, we will have lawful mission givers, but usually a lot of our missions that would be of a pirate's influence would be coming directly from from those one-on-one conversations.
Right. It doesn't make sense for the less reputable missions to be up on the job. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe with one, with the 1-star rating on there, it's like.
But I think law enforcement. I know some of the some cops in the states did do that on Craigslist, I believe, where they
Right.
turn in your local drug dealer, and that was a way for weeding out the competition. So,
Wow. Now I'm thinking. Have you pointed that out to Dave Haddock?
No.
All right.
No.
All right. Let's see. From the thread, long-range sensors have been mentioned as being worked on. Can you elaborate on CIG's plans for how the mechanic is being designed?
So it depends on what you consider long-range sensors. So when we consider long-range scanning, that would be almost like the Hubble telescope or something like that, where you're looking across, let's say a quarter to all the way across the universe. And Tony's thought behind it is that you just kind of open your lens and you sit there and you wait for this information to come to you, and it takes a certain period of time for it to come to you, and then at that point you start seeing these anomalies, and then you zoom in onto those and you say, okay, what is this? And it takes extra time associated with that. Versus right now, what Kirk and Mark Abent and the U.S. vehicle team is working on is what I would consider kind of short-range scanning, where we're dealing with pinging and we're dealing with things that are
Wideband, narrowband.
Yeah, things that are around you, and we're talking roughly, let's say, 10 to 50K. So 10,000 to 50,000, kilometers away from you, and so at that point you're looking for something, whether that be another ship or rocks or a derelict debris or something like that.
This is where I'm going to plug that RTV. If you haven't checked it out, it's Kirk Tomei and Mark Abent on RTV about 2 months ago, if I remember correctly. It's called Scanners Aglow. Some title I thought was clever at the time and was wrong about, but a whole hour-long conversation about scanning, how it works now, how we want it to work in the near future, and then how we want it to work in the distant future. So I definitely recommend you check that out. I'm also seeing a question. I want to do a clarification here on the Star. I said Star Citizen backers, that the opening keynote and the closing remarks, the road to release would be available to all Star Citizen backers. I meant all Star Citizen accounts. So basically, anybody who wants to watch those, all they got to do is come to the website and they can watch them. So, just offering that clarification there. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, did I say backers? Did I say backers or did I say accounts? I have the NyQuil brain, folks. Doing my best. All right, what else do we got? Currently, navigating and finding your way around the planets is, quote unquote, difficult. What is the status of allowing players to set waypoints while on foot?
We don't have anything planned right now. Right now, from a UI standpoint, there's a fair amount of things that need a second treatment.
Right.
So
we talk a lot about Tier 0 implementation.
yeah, so the only thing that's missing now that is a fairly major feature from the UI standpoint is the FPS map. And so I think once we get that in and working the way that we want it to work, then it'll be going through and doing passes on the FPS as well as the ships, and then star map, and then a few other things that we need to go through and do passes on. As far as like dropping a beacon or dropping something, for navigating around, I would have to sit down and talk with the guys and just say, okay, how useful would this be? What are things that, besides just saying, okay, you are here, or this is where you want to go, in the star map, like that to me is the part that's, I think we need to talk about a little bit more.
Partnership opportunity. Hear me out. Google Maps, just on the planets.
It is. Trust me, it is a reference that you know, when we talk about like zooming in and when it transfers, you know, between street view and basically just the overall map, like, you know, these are things that we are referencing, but again, you know, it's time and it's focus.
All things in their place.
Yes.
It's even with 500 plus developers and studios around the world, there are only still so many things we can work on at any given time. All right, let's pick another question from the live chat. We've seen a lot of discussion in recent ATVs about the Scramble Race.
Yeah.
Work that Luke Presley and his team is doing on not just a ground side Scramble Race, but I think we recently, maybe it was just this week's ATV. Again, I'm working in multiple episodes, so it's hard to remember. But at a space
version,
space version of the Scramble Race. What is the legality of Scramble Races in the UAE? Will it reflect in-game, and will we be given a crime stat for killing participants during the race?
I mean, this is something that we have talked about. For the most part, I think that we might either we do it outside of legal zones. So then at that point in time, it's up in the air. You can do whatever you want to. And then it might be, if this is legal, this is kind of like, all right, I'm signing up for this, you know, and think of it as almost like, well, Running Man wasn't legal, but
it was actually.
But you know,
the law was just very different. In that world.
But you know, that's kind of the idea is that this is something that the player opts into. You know, as a, you know, I want to go out there and put myself on the limb, so you know, and try this out.
If I remember my lore correctly, and if I get this wrong, Dave Haddock will certainly let me know. But the Stanton system isn't actually UEE operated. It's owned by the 4 corporations that bought those planets. So I mean, it is essentially privatized space. That's why you have Crusader security, and that's why you have Hurston security and whatnot. So I would imagine there's probably, you know, as the system gets fleshed out, some gray areas between, you know, Crusader's like, this is as far as I go, and Hurston security's like, this is as far as I go, and probably some strips of gray in there where like, I'm not dealing with that. You know, and that's where you find Levski or Grimhex or stuff like that. So it's one of the brilliant things about the Stanton system. It's ripe for a ton of opportunity.
Yes.
And we talk more about that in Calling All Devs, which airs on Monday. You should check that out. I'm all over the place. All right, back to the thread. From the fuel dock, it appears that the scoops and refineries do not make quantum fuel, that it can only be replenished at places like Cryastro. How will long-range ships, especially exploration ships, be able to replenish their quantum fuel reserves?
Well, there's 2 different ways. There's the truck stops, or rest stops, or whatever we want to call them.
We seem to vacillate back and forth.
Yes. Ship stops, yeah.
Ship stops, that's dangerous. You're trying to say that 5 times fast.
Then there's Starfarers. So, and that was kind of the idea. Obviously, we're going to have to go through a whole fuel rebalancing when we basically turn on OCS.
Oh yeah.
So, going from Crusader all the way to Hurston, and then as soon as we go to Microtech and ArcCorp, you know, we'll do another rebalancing. But I mean, the overall goal for me is somewhere between maybe 1 to 2 hours of, you know, whatever the player's doing, they got to refuel maybe once every 2 hours, depending on what, you know, they're doing at that time. Right. You know, if they're basically on their booster all the time, well, yeah, you're probably going to have to refuel. But if you're QTing all over the place, you might have to refuel more.
I would imagine that, and if I'm allowed to speak in my own opinion here, I would imagine that regardless of how well we intend and how well we practice and how well we test and how well we research, whatever the version of how long you can go before refueling when 3.3 drops will not be the same as it is when 3.3.1 goes. I mean,
correct.
We have this community that can sit there and put these things through the paces.
We will do constant adjustments.
Yeah.
So, and again, what's in for 3.3 versus 3.4 versus 3.5, I can guarantee it will be different.
Oh. All right. We know that started quite a few conversations a couple weeks ago. When you were on RTV last time, you mentioned that we're currently thinking 8 truck stops and people on the road between Olasar and Hurston. And a lot of debate about whether that was too many or not enough.
And again, we'll throw in, once we have different archetypes, then we'll throw in different things, and again, I think Luke adjusted it. Maybe it might be 4 right now, but that might go back up to 8. That might stay at 4. That might go up to 12. Like it's something that, as our QA department gets in there and really starts playing it. I mean, right now, I think Luke opens that level and takes over 32 gigs of RAM to open up that level. So
I'm gonna see it next week.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that goes into those.
All right. From the live chat, what can you say is the current state of roads on planets and moons, and why they're not yet added to the PU? Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I don't know. Actually, I honestly don't know. I don't know where, honestly, our guy here finished with it. I don't know if it's finished.
Who? What was his name?
Honest?
Honest.
Honest.
Honest. I was gonna say Honest was the cinematics guy.
Yeah, Honest. So I don't know if
can't hear me.
I don't know if we finished it, because I know that he was working on water, and I think before then he was working on roads. So if roads have been implemented, so that we can actually just paint them on, then I think they would go in. But if it requires some more tech in order to actually get them to blend right and all of that, then Marco and
Right.
Ian will not want to put that stuff out.
I remember seeing some of the early tests on that a couple months ago, actually.
Yeah.
Whoever asked that, put that in a calling all devs thread. Maybe we'll get, just so I remember to follow up on it later. I do want to say that many of these questions in the thread came from Erwin M. Fletcher. Like every once in a while, you get a single backer who puts like 10, 15 questions there and gets like 9 of them voted up, and everybody else just agrees. Like, yeah, he's got the pulse of the community. So I just want to give a shout out to Erwin M. Fletcher. It's all ball bearings nowadays, anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's a really obscure reference, and if anybody gets it, did you get that reference? Sorry. You've been in Germany for a while.
Yeah.
But Fletch. Erwin.
Oh,
Chevy
yes.
Chase.
Yes.
It's all ball bearings nowadays.
Yeah. My wife's favorite movie.
I like your wife. You tried to set me up earlier this week. I don't want to talk to you about that. All right, back to the thread. Let's see. Will there eventually be a point in the game where a player can find a quiet corner of the universe without being non-stop harassed by auto-generated NPC pirates and PvP players looking to enrich my gameplay experience? Well, I don't think they're looking to enrich my game. Oh, he's probably being facetious. Yes, PvP players looking to enrich his gameplay experience. So basically, is the verse going to be big enough that we can just Luke Skywalker our butts to Octo somewhere and hide out?
I would like to think so, yeah. I mean, I think in particular, we have what we consider hotspots of areas. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that you might come across somebody, out in the middle of nowhere, and then it's kind of like the Wild West of, I don't know you, you don't know me. But the thing is that I think our planets are big enough, and I think our solar system is big enough that if you go out to the middle of nowhere, yeah, you might not be found, whether you like that or not.
I think I expect to see like an entire YouTube series of some hermit that has just gone out and plopped a land claim license on some random moon in some obscure system, and where he literally just sits like that is his Star Citizen experience, just waiting to see how long it takes somebody to find him.
But
it'll happen.
I mean, it all depends on probabilities, and I think for those cases we will have very low chances of probabilities. In particular, once you start getting towards the extents of the universe.
From the live chat, will players be able to directly transfer UEC and items such as weapons via some interface like Mobiglass? They're asking for a trade screen.
We've talked about it regarding part of the service beacon being able to actually pay your employees or pay, so for example, if you and I go out and
Which we should.
we go on a mission, totally, go get some schnitzel. So when we go, let's say we go out on a mission, and since I'm the ship owner, I get paid. You don't get paid right now. So like a way to pay your crew.
Bullshit, by the way.
Yes, I agree. I'll drop you a couple of dimes every now and then. But that's something that we've talked about, whether that be via service beacon or some other kind of interface via the Mobiglass. But that is something that Tony and I do want, and we do feel it's needed.
And plus, I feel like you need other ways to pay than just UEC. There needs to be barter pay. Like I want to pay you in 10 SEU of Argon.
Now, as far as like trading and all of that, I think we'll need to talk about that more and figure out the logistics of how do we transfer, how do you make sure that everything's fair, that kind of stuff. And then if something's not fair, is it on the player that did the trade to basically say, no, you fucked up, and so, because I can guarantee you somebody's going to be unhappy about a trade sometime or another, and
I just want it so that I can have a mission, hire a person, pay them in cargo, like, oh, this is high quality, whatever, and they take the cargo. When they get home, it's got like Tyler Wicken inside it. He just his character just pops out of the box. He's like, hi.
Oh, I was hoping it was just like suffocated. Hi, Tyler.
I don't wish ill will on Tyler. I wish Tyler on other people.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Tyler. Let's see. Tyler, who's feeding me questions right now from the community. This one says simply throwing knives. Question mark.
There's absolutely no reason why we couldn't right now.
If I ask Steve Bender, what would Steve Bender say?
Steve Bender would probably say the same exact thing.
Let's see. Tyler's an ass. Tyler has filled my entire question feed up with nothing but the word Carrick. Switch to the Todd camera real quick, just so you can see I'm not joking. Look at this. It's just Carrick. That's all Tyler's feeding me right now. All right, go back. All right. To answer this incredible, oh my God, it goes on so long. To answer this incredibly, wow, cold medication, incredibly well thought out and constructed question, the Carrick has not begun construction yet. I know we reported that once work on certain other ships were done, team members would move on to early work on the Carrick. Those resources are all hands on deck for 3.3 right now. Object container streaming is a function that touches almost every single aspect of Star Citizen, so a lot of folks are focused on that. So work has not begun on the Carrick, but I will make you this promise, and when I sit here on RTV and I make a promise, I keep it. When work on Carrick when the work on the Carrick starts, I will, the ship shape where I come out and I'm in front of the black screen, black background. I do my thing. I'm wearing my blazer. I will come out, and not only will I announce that work on the Carrick has started, but it will be flashy lights and sirens and I will do something additional befitting of the announcement that work on this fan favorite ship has actually begun.
It won't be growing a beard, will it?
No, I will not spontaneously grow a beard on stream. But until that happens, there will not be any updates on the Carrick because it hasn't actually started production yet. So, can you delete those? It's all. There's so many, Tyler. All right, we're going back to the other thread then. All right, let's see. One stretch goal, the $19 million stretch goal, is that a player can run a space station. How can that mechanic work? That's literally what it says. It says, how can that mechanic work? Now, yes, the $19 million stretch goal was the ability for players to operate a space stations. I don't remember if the word own was in there. It might have been. It's been a long time since I've looked at the stretch goals. But I do specifically remember the word operate in there. So, and operate is functionally, it's the same anyway. So is that in our scope right now, or are we thinking about that yet? It seems like it might be a little farther.
I want to see how our modular system works first. I think then there's other key things that you'd have to think about. Just like a ship, then you got to think about power. You got to think about security and revenue and all these other things. So, okay, if you own in my mind, it's almost owning like a strip mall. Like, okay, I'm going to rent out this corner unit to 7-Eleven. I'm going to rent out this unit to dry cleaner. I'm going to rent out this thing to that. So there's a fair amount of interface systems that would need to go into that. So from my standpoint, we'd have to break it down from system design. And then we need to be able to see how far our modular system can be pushed, just because if we open up it to one person, I would have to sit there and talk about it with CR and Tony. How many of these do we have per solar system? Is it 5? Is it 50?
Maybe it's
what, and also, I mean, I can see the appeal of it. But the other thing is that it might be we do it on the surface. Like, there's other ways that we can do it. So
maybe it's some kind of management system for the existing truck stops. Like maybe you can buy your way into a controlling interest on a truck stop, and you operate. Yeah, you stock the truck stop, and you get some kind of revenue from it.
I mean, this was done before I was around. And so I would like to just kind of sit there and pick CR's brain, pick Tony's brains on first off what they were thinking, for this, so that I actually make sure that we're hitting the mark, and getting what CR expects across, and then it's also what's going to be interesting about that. As an owner, does that mean that, basically it's like a slumlord and shit always is breaking and you got to go around and fix everything, or what makes it interesting,
From the live chat, touching upon something we mentioned earlier, will missions ever be bound to the character instead of the ship?
Will missions ever be bound to the character instead of the ship? Well, I mean, missions are based off of your reputation right now.
Yeah, it's earlier you said because it's my ship, I get the reward. I think
it's because when I go in and it's based off of my account. So so therefore, when I land and I'm going and selling something, or I'm going and turning something in, I'm the one that's actually getting paid.
Yeah.
So as far as it being based off the ship, like what we want to do is, if it's a combat mission, we want to be able to kind of warn the player, hey, this is combat mission, you might not want to bring in a crucible or something like that. So it's those types of things where we want to kind of say, hey, kind of expect this, but as far as getting paid or anything like that, one of the things that we'll need to work out is, if it's a bounty or something like that, do I actually bring the body in? Do I bring, let's say you're
Yes, you have to bring the body in.
Well, no, but
no disintegrations.
If
you disintegrate your bounty, that makes you the worst bounty hunter in the history of bounty hunting.
But it could be that, let's say this character has a monocle, or a bracelet, or something that makes them unique. A certain spacesuit, and you bring in this pink fluffy spacesuit, that is always worn by this character. Then that one's dead.
And I just wanted to crap on Boba Fett some more.
Yes.
Seriously, it's the only thing you can't do. If you're a bounty hunter, there's only one thing you can't do. Disintegrate your target, because you can't prove anything if it's disintegrated. I mean, everybody's like, Boba Fett's great. It's like, no, Darth Vader's treating him like a dummy. No disintegration, you dummy. Boba Fett's terrible. Boba Fett is terrible.
I'm going to push you out of your stool.
Oh, that's right. You have a big Lego Slave 1 right now.
Yes.
No, Slave 1's cool. His armor's cool. Boba Fett is terrible. We'll talk about it. All right. Will we see space-based weather phenomenon in the future? Stuff like solar flares causing EM storms or rogue asteroids, comets bringing debris fields.
Yes. I mean,
It's an hour-long show. You want to
well, I mean, if, for example, like
make Christian laugh?
That's not hard. The cloud stuff that the graphics team is working on, like there's a lot of interesting things that we can do with that, and then there's also the weather stuff that Karsten's working on. I don't know how those things are going to play just yet, but what I do know is I want to be able to tie systems into those and make sure that they affect your ship or they affect you as a player somehow. And then obviously with the meteor storms or those types of things, like those are aspects that we do want to get in. It's just, I think the cloud tech is probably closer, and so then that might lead to nebulas or space clouds or comets, or I don't know what we can do with it yet. And so once Ali finishes the code or those guys finish the code, then I think there's some optimizations that still need to happen in order for us to be able to run it in PU, and then we can start having fun.
From the live chat, are you planning on creating more fictional brands so you don't see the same few ones in billboards around the verse?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a ton of fictional brands. I think what we're lacking is the advertisements for them.
Yeah, and it's just each one, takes a certain time to create and build up. And I think Dave's or the writers.
The corporation matrix.
The corporation matrix is
vast,
is somewhat extensive. Yeah. Yes,
and I will say I have a pet peeve in the fictional brands and billboards is that we've had at least 2 billboards that have been drastically wrong since our corp was first introduced. There's a billboard there's an Origin billboard that has the cockpit of a Hornet on it, and there's a still from the Origin 300 series that has the anvil logo. It's almost like somebody did it on purpose.
They might have. So Ian, Eddie, please fix that.
No. I led a crusade last year to get it fixed, and it was fixed.
Okay.
And then through some inclusion and exclusion mapper, it got re-added. The old files got re-added, but I actually had it fixed for a little bit.
Okay.
It was like I have finally affected the development of Star Citizen, and then it got undone. So that's
The Jared redo button.
Trust me, I'm going to UK next week. I'll be bringing it up there. Let's see. Why are repairs and refueling so quick? It should take a few minutes at least, not just hover and go. This person wants to spend more time repairing and refueling, Todd.
Well, everything should take time. So whether that's unloading the ship, repairing the ship, refueling the ship, yes, it should take time. It's just right now we have the quick and easy buttons of okay, let's do this right now, and then at that point we will start adding timers into these things.
This one's a pretty far out there one, but get your thoughts on it. From the live chat, it says, this Precision Universe is essentially a sandbox. Mm-hmm. It's essentially a big, huge sandbox. We are constantly impressed by the things that people are already finding to do, things that we didn't particularly intend or whatever.
My favorite one is the reclaimer being blown into the atmosphere by the rock.
Yes. That was the one where several mining lasers all hit the rock at the same time to make it a super big. Yeah, okay. Will we see expanded storytelling in the persistent universe, like a long-form conflict with another race, or giant cosmic events that you see it in other MMOs, like big watershed events that happen in the old World of Warcraft days, where it was the opening of Encourage and stuff like that.
I know Dave and the writers want to do that, and from a gameplay aspect, and we want to do it as well. And that could be as simple as the UEE fleet going through, let's say, Stanton, you know, and that is, let's say, a week-long experience or something like that. And then from there, does that actually affect, you know, does that kill off certain characters, or does that, you know, adjust the way that the pirates, you know, act for a certain period of time, that kind of stuff. So those types of things, as far as killing off a major character or those types, that I don't know. I don't know what the writer's plans are for that. That's usually all driven through lore.
Right. Let's go back to the thread here.
So next time you have Dave on, ask him that question.
Right. Have you ever hidden anything in the middle of nowhere in the verse just to see if anyone would find it? Well, I already know the answer to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Benny Henge.
Benny Henge.
Yeah. And our artists were not happy about that.
No. No.
At all.
No. The very first time I went to the UK studio, I met with Luke Presley, and I pitched him on two things. One, I said we should find out what's been happening to all those big vending machines that get stolen. And that's the only prompt I had. I don't care what, but we should find out what happens to all those big vending machines that everybody's stealing. And the other one was I pitched him on the worst mission ever devised, and he obviously went with one and not the other.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what the worst mission is, and you'll be like, "Wow, Jared, that's a really bad mission." All right, let's see, what else do we got? We've got just a couple minutes left. What can you tell us about command and control gameplay? We hear this phrase a lot. You know, a lot of folks pledge into capital ships and everything with the goal, because they're not dogfighters. I'm not a dogfighter by any means, but my dream of sitting around a giant command and control console, you know, as the bridge explodes around me, is getting shellacked, you know, and I remember, what do we do now? And you're like, we die.
Yes.
Which is another really obscure reference. What can you tell us about command and control gameplay? Have we started exploring that?
We have very high-level ideas, and we've sat down and we've... Hi. Hey. Okay. Get a beer when you can. We've talked about, you know, what is a captain doing? What is a helmsman doing? You know, we have all of our different position seats that we want to do, and make sure that we go through, and they're playing Pokemon.
Are they playing? Okay, keep on.
Yes. And breaking those down and saying, okay, what's needed from an engineer standpoint, what's needed from a helmsman standpoint, what's needed from a captain basically saying, okay, here, attack this target, and then, you know, they're using basically the big globe and saying that target, you know, right there, and then all the turrets are informed, all the weapon, you know, officers are informed, so on and so forth. So it's, from my standpoint, let's get the Connie working the way that we want it to work, you know. And we do have the big capital ships out there, and they're coming very, very soon. But I want to make sure that the bulk of that stuff works first, you know, and
before we scale it up.
Exactly. And then at that point, we understand this is what a weapons officer means. And the thing for us is making sure that, you know, they have 10 to 15 different things on their plate that they're trying to spin, you know. And if they don't have that stuff, then what makes it interesting? Are they just kind of this red shirt that just sits there the whole time and doesn't engage with anything, or are they actually having fun?
All right. We've heard a lot of talk on ATV recently of no-fly zones, as with regards to Lorville and stuff. And no, actually, we've talked about it from the moment ArcCorp was first introduced. Have we determined how no-fly zones are working? Is it just going to be this magic bubble? Your ship flies into it, explodes.
No.
Is it going to fly in and turn you around? Is there security going to come and?
Well, it's let's say this tablet is Lorville. Okay. Well, the idea would be that there is a zone over it that you wouldn't be able to fly into. What we will be releasing for 3.3 with Lorville is
Tier 0.
Tier 0. So that means that there's no flight paths or anything like that. Theoretically, you can fly in, and then we have a spaceport right in the center. All right. Okay. So you brought that on yourself. So there's a spaceport in the center, and it's basically, think of it as a donut that you fly into, kind of thing. And then you can land there, and then if you get too close to the sides, you'll get warned. You know, you're coming close to a restricted zone, and then once you get into the restricted zone, it will start ready now. And it'll start saying you need to leave, and then there will be a hard deck where basically you'll hit and you'll die. From there, you'll be able to, in the future, it would be that this whole thing is a restricted zone, and then you have flight paths in and out of this, very similar to, any major city.
Right.
So, and then at that point, if you deviate from those flight paths, then IFCS basically puts you back onto the spline, kind of thing.
Oh, and what happens if you disable IFCS?
If you just fly, the idea would, or turn everything off, I don't think it would be, I think we'd probably say that you can't turn everything off. Or if you do turn everything off, then you hit that hard deck and you die. So, I mean, the main thing about this is trying to make sure that, did you catch it?
Did you get what you were looking for?
Oh,
you're
okay.
still here.
Everyone else got it.
What are you looking for?
To write you.
Oh, to write you.
Okay.
Write you.
So, congratulations. So my wife plays Pokemon like crazy. All right, so in fact, I have to come to work and do trades for her so that she can trade with other characters.
Everybody else is having one. Let's take this over here. Hold on. We're already off the thing. Keep talking. Keep talking.
But where was I?
You were talking about no-fly zones.
Okay, so with the no-fly zone, I mean, the main thing for us is to make sure that players can't grief other players. So because, ArcCorp Area 18 in Lorville is open air, theoretically there could be somebody that just sits up there and just shoots into the town. And if you are just a happenstance and basically get rained on by a missile, what's fun about that? What's interesting about that? So right now we don't think there's anything fun about it. So we just want to make sure that we're going through and actually building something that doesn't grief players.
That's fair. That's fair. And of course, like I said, Tier 0 implementation with 3.3, and it's something that we'll continue to iterate on in subsequent releases. And of course, backer feedback. We will have a version out there, and then we will see not just what they say, but what they do with it, and adjust like we do. It's one of the biggest advantages of having a live environment in the middle of our game development. We'd be silly not to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, is there anything else you want to say to the Star Citizen community before we wrap up?
No? Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Cheers.
All right. Oh my gosh. 3, 4. That was the best break I've ever had in my life. I just sunk 4 on the break.
And you sunk the 8-ball.
I did? Well, we're not playing that version of the game. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. This has been Reverse the Verse live from Foundry 42, Frankfurt, in Cologne, Germany. Join us again next week when I'll be in Manchester, United Kingdom. I won't tell you what that show's about, but you'll probably want to tune into that one, especially if you're interested in the more technical aspects of the game. Some other things, of course, remember the Citizencon website was updated. This week, switch back to the. Oh no, we'll leave it with that one. They can see me, right? The Citizencon website was updated yesterday. Tickets are available again now for the event on October 10th, 2018. If you have questions about any of the plan, the virtual tickets, or the digital tickets rather, virtual tickets or somebody else, you can check out the Spectrum thread posted by Chris Roberts, where he goes into further detail on that. And of course, tune in for Calling All Devs on Monday, where we talk about all kinds of stuff. Todd's on it, and John Cruz on it, and all the Calling All Devs All Stars. So for Reverse the Verse Live, I'm Content Manager for Global Video Production, Jared Huckaby. That's Director of Star Citizen Live, Todd Papy.
This is Chris.
That's Christian. Oh yeah, I just realized in that camera you can actually see him. So that's Christian. Play us out, Christian. You have a song? No? No, you don't have any song? Da 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 da.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.